All right, thank you guys. Welcome to opening day. I'll tell you what, I miss the smell of a cigar at the old ballpark. When I was a kid, people could smoke cigars, cigarettes at the park, and there's just something about the smell of a cigar, at the old baseball park. Is this brings back nostalgia. Now, guys, real quick, keep an eye on those cold weather games. There's a lot of cold air in the country right now. But first, gotta welcome you to our MLB video here today for April 1st. My name is Brock Page and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. Now, if you really end up enjoying this video here today, please feel free to go ahead and give it a thumbs up by smashing that like button. And if you're new here and you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please feel free to do that right now as well. I'd greatly appreciate it. But like I just said, guys, keep an eye on those cold weather games. I think that's why we're seeing a lot of low totals here. But anyway, let's go ahead and start. The Braves take on the Phillies, 3:05 Eastern first pitch. The Phillies are minus $1.25, total 7. And if you like the Braves in an upset victory on opening day here, they're plus 105 on the money line. Now, it looks like Max Fried's on the bump here today for the Braves, Aaron Nola for the Fightins. And despite a pretty rough day yesterday on my Patreon website, we still improved to 2-0 in our last two board member tier package picks on my Patreon page. We're also hitting at 83% in our last dozen extra daily picks on that Patreon site as well. Now, if you want to access today's extra daily pick, it's only going to cost you just $2.99. And the link for that site is in the description section below. That's patreon.com/BrockPage. Now, despite many impressive outings last season, Aaron Nola finished the 2020 campaign just 5-5 on the year through 12 starts. That should be a crime. He had some really good stuff last year. The Phils are taking on a Braves team who pounded the ball last year, and they've got lefty Max Fried on the hill here today. Fried went a solid 7-0 in the regular season last year, 2.25 ERA, just 2 home runs given up. Freddie Freeman also hit .341 in the regular season with 23 doubles in 60 games. I like the value in Atlanta on the road here. I'm going to lean toward the Atlanta Braves plus 105 and the under 7 runs. The next game, Rangers-Royals, 4:10 Eastern start time. The Kansas City Royals are the $1.60 favorite at home. Pretty big number there. Number's 8.5, juice slightly toward the over. Brad Keller for the Royals, Kyle Gibson for Texas. But despite coming off a pretty tough season, Gibson had a solid 2019 year, going 13-7 through 29 starts, along with 160 strikeouts. Now they're going to have to look toward Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who has some offensive prowess. He batted .280 last season with a .329 on-base percentage. Now the third baseman also led the club in spring training this year and batted .333 through 18 ball games. Now they're taking on a Royals team who finished 8 games below 500 last year, and they played just 500 baseball at Kauffman Stadium. Brad Keller is getting the start on the hill here today for Kansas City, who despite a decent 2020 campaign for Keller, he actually went just 7-14 in his last 162 game season with the Royals. So I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the underdog Texas Rangers plus 1.5 and the over 8.5 runs. Next contest, probably going to have a lot of eyes on this one. I'm talking about the Dbacks versus the Padres, 4:10 East. The San Diego Padres are minus 235, totals 8.5, juice to the under. Yu Darvish for the Pods, Madison Bumgarner for the Dbacks. Now, Mad Bum is coming off a disappointing 1-4 season. 6.48 ERA through 9 starts, 1.44 WHIP. The D-backs finished last season with the second worst record in the National League. They also won just 9 of 30 road games. They're taking on a stacked Padres team who's got Yu Darvish on the bump here today. 8-3 season last year with the Cubs, 2.01 ERA, 93 Ks through 12 starts. Darvish also had a very impressive whip of just .96. Fernando Tatis Jr. led the club in homers during the regular season in 2020. Manny Machado was right behind him with 16 homers. There's certainly going to be a challenge for Madison Bumgarner here today. I'm going to lean toward The San Diego Padres minus 1.5 in the over 8.5 runs. Next ball game, Dodgers, Rockies, 4:10 Eastern first pitch. The LA Dodgers are minus 220, totals 11. Clayton Kershaw for the Dodgers, German Marquez for the Rockies. Now Marquez is coming off one of his best seasons ERA-wise, but definitely not win-wise. Now out of 13 starts, the Rockies lineup was only able to help Marquez get the W 4 times last year. Marquez also had a whip that crept up to the 1.26 area. Now, the Rockies finished 2020 8 games below 500, and they also finished in second to last place in the NL West. They're taking on a Dodger team who they won over 73% of their road games in the regular season last year. Clayton Kershaw is coming off a strong 2020 campaign as usual, 6-2 record with a 2.16 ERA and a staggering .84 whip. Kershaw's command was exceptional. He walked just 8 batters in over 58 innings of work. Corey Seager actually had a really good-looking spring here this year as well. 18 hits, 8 homers, 827 slugging in the exhibition games. So I do like the Dodgers' chances here on the road today. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers minus 1.5 and the under 11. Next ball game, Rays, Marlins, 4:10 East. The Rays are minus $1.50, total 7.5. Tyler Glasnow for the Rays, Sandy Alcantara for the Marlins. Now, believe it or not, Sandy went 3-2 in 7 starts last year for Miami. He had a 3.00 ERA and a 1.19 whip in limited action. Now, the Marlins certainly overachieved as they were one of the worst affected teams with COVID in 2020. Remember, they missed like a whole month of play. They had to play a ton of backlogged games towards the end of the 60-game season, and most of their home games were actually, they had to be played on the road. So they certainly showed a lot of grit during that stretch. They're taking on a Rays team who, in my opinion, really imploded in that World Series a few months ago, and honestly, I think the organization really took a turn for the worse because of it. Now, Tyler Glasnow had a great season record-wise last year, but he finished with a 4.08 ERA and plenty of command problems. Now, Tampa's second leading hitter in the postseason last year was batting just .276 and struck out 19 times through 19 playoff games. So this certainly is a team who strikes out a lot, and they're just heavily dependent on analytics instead of just going out there and playing the game. So I actually like the Marlins in this spot here. Give me the Miami Marlins plus 1.5 and the under 7.5. Next game, Cardinals, Reds, 4:10 Eastern start time. The Cincinnati Reds are minus $1.20, total 7 juice to the over. Luis Castillo for the Reds, Jack Flaherty for the Cards. Now, Flaherty finished the 2020 campaign with a 4.91 ERA and a 1.22 whip. And despite finishing in second place in the NL Central last year, things were pretty bottled up in the division as St. Louis only finished 2 games above 500, so they didn't even really play great, baseball. They're taking on a Reds team who played some really good baseball down the home stretch last year in the regular season, and they actually finished the regular season with a winning record at home. Now, Luis Castillo finished the year with a 3.21 ERA and 89 strikeouts through 70 innings of work. Now, the Reds are going to look to Eugenio Suarez for some power this season. Suarez led the Reds with 15 homers along with 38 ribbies. Small park, Flaherty on the mound. I'm going to lean toward the Cincinnati Reds minus $1.20 and the over 7 runs. Next contest, White Sox, Angels, 10:05 Eastern first pitch. The Chicago White Sox are the $1.20 favorite, numbers 8 flat. Lucas Giolito for the Sox, Dylan Bundy for the Angels. Now, Dylan Bundy is coming off one of his better seasons last year. Almost makes you think he kind of caught lightning in a bottle, though, because overall he went just 15-30 in his 2 seasons before that, and he's never had a sub 4 ERA in his career until 2020. Now, the Angels finished last year 8 games below 500, and they also finished in second to last place in the AL West. Now, they're taking on a Chicago team who has one of the more exciting hitters in the game in Jose Abreu. The crafty veteran was second in the league in homers with 19 of them, and he also batted in 60 RBI. Meanwhile, no surprise here, Tim Anderson, another great season for him. He actually led the club in spring training in hits with 20 of them, along with a .333 batting average and 29 total bases. Now, Lucas Giolito, he struck out 97 batters in over 72 innings of work. He actually struck out 228 batters the season before that. I'm going to lean toward the White Sox, minus $1.20, and the under 8 runs. Next matchup, Astros-A's, 10:07 East. The Astros are the slight $1.15 favorite. Totals 8 flat. Zach Greinke for the Astros, Chris Bassett for the A's. Now, Bassett had himself a solid season last year, 5-2 record, 2.29 ERA. They're taking on an Astros team who notoriously plays poorly on the road. Houston went just 9-23 straight up away from their home field, good for just 28% in that category last year. The Astros finished the 2020 campaign with a .483 win percentage as well. I like the Oakland A's, minus 105, and the under 8. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Giants-Mariners, 10:10 Eastern start time. The San Francisco Giants are minus $1.15 on the road here. Totals 8, juice to the over. Kevin Gausman for the Giants, Marco Gonzalez for the Mariners. Now, Gonzalez went 7-2 last year with a .310 ERA through 11 starts. Gonzalez walked just 7 batters through nearly 70 innings of work, and he had an impressive .94 whip. The Mariners also played some pretty good baseball at home. They were 14-10 straight up as the official home team. Now they are taking on a Giants club who won just 10 of 27 on the road last year, good for just 37% in that category. They also have Kevin Gausman on the bump here tonight, who got the W in just 3 out of 12 games pitched last year. So he got the W just 3 times in 12 games pitched. I like Seattle on their home field here. Give me the Seattle Mariners, minus 105, and the over 8 runs. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like the Atlanta Braves, plus 105, under 7. Texas, plus 1.5, over 8.5. San Diego, minus 1.5, over 8.5. LA Dodgers, minus 1.5, under 11. Miami Marlins, plus 1.5, under 7.5. Cincinnati Reds, minus $1.20, over 7 runs. Chicago White Sox, minus $1.20, under 8 runs. Oakland A's, minus 105, under 8. And before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 2-0 in our last couple of board member tier package picks on my Patreon website. We're also hitting at 83% in our last dozen extra daily picks on that Patreon page as well. I'm going to lean toward the Seattle Mariners, minus 105, and the over 8 runs. All right, guys, that is going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind, we'll bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you sign up today on the 1st, you're getting max value for your money. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Thursday to you. Happy opening day to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.